Music theory often feels very overwhelming, especially if you're self-taught or you're just starting out. But it doesn't always have to be that way. I'm Siddharth Kumar from Encore Piano Academy, and in this video, I'll be guiding you through the fundamentals of music theory in a structured manner. We'll be covering notes, chords, scales, intervals, and how all of these things work together. So whether you're a piano student or learning some other instrument, or you just want to get a deeper level of understanding of how music theory works, this is the right video for you. So let's not wait further and dive in. Firstly, there are only 12 notes in music. So the pop songs that you hear, the rock songs, the classical music, metal music, everything is made up of 12 notes, as simple as that. If you look at your keyboard, you can see that the keys are arranged in groups of black keys and white keys. And if you look specifically at the black keys, they are in groups of 2s and 3s. And that same pattern keeps repeating over and over again. And below the black keys, you have your white keys. So let's quickly hop on to the diagram of the instrument over here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black keys, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white keys. If you add 7 plus 5, you get the number 12, which is the number of notes in Western music. And these 12 notes keep repeating from the left side of the instrument to the right side of the instrument. So as you go towards the left side of the instrument, you say that you're going down in pitch, and as you go towards the right side, you say that you're going up in pitch. So that's the 12 notes in music. Let's get into the next topic. So the next topic is tones and semitones. So this is a very important topic that is going to kind of lay the foundational aspects for all the other things that you're going to learn in the video. So let's quickly explore what a tone is and what a semitone is. So now these two terms are also known as whole steps and half steps, depending on where you live. For the purpose of this video, we'll stick to the tones and semitone terminology. So we'll first start with semitones. So what is a semitone? So a semitone is nothing but the distance between one key to the very next key, black or white. It doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter. So let's say I'm playing a note here, right? And a semitone is the very next key, the black key over here. So that's a semitone up. Now if I want to go a semitone below or down from this note, it'll be this, right? Let's take another example. Now let's take this black key over here. Now if I'm going to go a semitone up, I play the very next white key. And if I'm going a semitone down from this black key, I play the white key before that. So that's what a semitone is. Now, what is a tone? A tone is nothing but two semitones, right? So two semitones give you a tone. That's very simple. So let's go back to the keyboard. Now we have this specific white key that I'm playing. Now what would be a tone up from this key? So you just count two semitones, first, second. So this is a tone up from this key. Let's take another example of this black key over here. Now if I'm playing this black key, what would be a tone up from this black key? So I need to count two semitones. So this white key and then this black key. So these two keys are a tone apart. And if I'm going a tone down, so I take this white key and then this white key. So that's a tone down from this particular black key. So that's what a tone and a semitone is. Now, since we know tones and semitones, let's quickly learn the names of the notes. I'm sure most of you would be knowing this, but we'll quickly cover that as well. So the white keys are named after English alphabets. So the first seven alphabets are used to name the notes. We'll start with the letter C, and we'll see how that goes. So the letter here is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you come back to C, D, and so on. If you go backwards, it's B, A, and so on down, right? So those are the letters of the white keys. We'll come to the black keys in the next part of the video. So I hope this part is clear. Now let's get into sharps, flats, and naturals. So sharps, flats, and naturals are also called accidentals. You can use accidentals to indicate that you want to play a black key. Now let's say I am on this specific white key, which is C. Now let's say I apply a sharp to C. What does that mean? When you apply a sharp, it just means that you are going to increase that note's value by one semitone. Okay, so when you increase a note's value by one semitone, it is called sharpening a note. You apply a sharp on it. So this is the symbol for the sharp. So let's say I'm on C and now I'm going to play the next note. This is a C sharp, right? And so now let's name all the black keys using this method. So the first black key was next to C, so it's going to be a C sharp. The second one is next to D, so that will be a D sharp. Now there's no black key in between E and F, so we'll just skip that. So now the next black key over here, that's right next to F, so that's going to be an F sharp. This is G sharp, and the last one is A sharp. So these are your black keys. Now we'll get into the next topic, which is, oops, I think something happened and everything's got deleted. Yeah, now it's back. So let's get into the next topic, which is flats. Now flats are similar to sharps. Here you need to think of it like decreasing a note's value by one semitone. So let's say I'm on this note over here, and that's a B, right? Now if I want to decrease its value by one semitone, I apply a flat. So I come back on this black key over here, so that becomes a B flat. Now you would notice that that note is already called A sharp. So all the black keys have two names. One is a sharp name and the other is a flat name. So to get the sharp name, you just need to look at the key on the left, the white key on the left side of that black key. To get the flat name, you just need to look at the white key on the right side of that. So now let's name the black keys again with flats. So this is B flat, this is A flat, this one is G flat. There's nothing in between here, so we go into the next one. Here that's E flat, and lastly you get a D flat. So these are your black keys. So they're called enharmonic notes, which is notes which have two names, right? So it can have a sharp name or a flat name. We'll get into why it has two names, what is the use of having two names and all that later on in the video. So for now, you just need to know that the black keys can have two names, a sharp name and a flat name. Now, the sharps and flats are not only limited to the black keys. So like I'd mentioned, you need to think of sharps and flats as increasing a note's value by a semitone in case of a sharp and decreasing a note's value by a semitone in case of a flat. So let's say you're on the note C. Now if I reduce C's value by one semitone, what do I get? I get B, right? So the B, the note here, the white key B, can also be called a C flat, okay? Because you're basically reducing C's value by one semitone, so it's called a C flat. So the B has two names. It's called a B, and it can also be called a C flat. Similarly, here F, this is the note F. Now if I decrease F's value by one semitone, you get an F flat, which is also called E. The same thing applies for sharps as well. So now the letter F or the note F can also be called E sharp, right? Because it's right next to E. And the note C can also be called a B sharp. So you just need to know that sharps and flats doesn't necessarily indicate the black keys. It can also mean white keys. You just need to think in terms of semitones, increasing and decreasing its value by one semitone. Now the last topic in this is the natural sign. So a natural sign is just used to cancel a sharp or a flat. So let's say you're reading your notation music and you encounter a C sharp, and immediately you want to play a C after that. So a natural sign is applied on the note, and it's an indication to the performer that you need to play a C natural or the regular white key C and not a C sharp. So that's the function of a natural sign. So a natural cancels out any sharp or flat that has been applied to a note. So these are the basics of sharps, flats, and naturals. We will get into the next topic, which is one of the most important topics in music, which is intervals. Now, interval is the distance between one note to another note. So that's basically what an interval is. It's a very simple definition. It's just the distance between one note to another note. Let's say I play the note C and I play another note, right? So I'm playing this black key. So what is the distance between this C to this black key? Now, how can you measure it? You can measure by calculating the number of keys that are in between, right? So that is nothing but semitones. Semitone is equivalent to one key, right? So now since there are 12 notes in music, there are 12 intervals as well. We'll first start by identifying all the different intervals. We'll keep our starting point as C to keep things simple. So this is C. I play the C twice. That is 0 intervals, right? Or it's a zero semitones to be more specific. Now the next note right next to C is, this is 1 semitone apart, 2 semitones, 3 semitones, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. You reach the last C. So those are your 12 intervals. We'll get into now naming these intervals. So the first interval is nothing but 0 semitones, which is playing the same key twice. So C and C, right? So that's called a unison. Next, 1 semitone apart. So C and the black key next to C. So that is C and a D flat. It's called a minor second. 2 semitones apart, C and D. This is called a major second. 3 semitones, C and E flat. This is called a minor third. 4 semitones, C and E. It's called a major third. 5 semitones, C and F. Now this is called a perfect fourth. 6 semitones, C and F sharp or G flat. This one's called a tritone. The tritone sits right in the center of all 12 intervals. So this is the sound that you get. It's also called the devil's interval because it sounds very dissonant and scary, right? So the tritone is also called the devil's interval. Now after the tritone, let's go to the next. So you get C to G, which is 7 semitones. That's called a perfect fifth. 8 semitones, C and A flat. It's called a minor sixth. 9 semitones, C and A. It's called a major sixth. 10 semitones, C and B flat. It's called a minor seventh. 11 semitones, C and B is called a major seventh. And lastly, C and the next C is called perfect eighth. It's also called an octave. So those are your 12 intervals, starting from unison to the perfect eighth. And let's play all these different intervals and listen to them one by one. So this is a unison, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, the tritone, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and the octave. So these are your 12 intervals. So if you notice, you can see that seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths have a major and minor quality. The unisons, the fourth, the fifth, and the eighth are perfect intervals. And of course, the tritone is in between. So these are your intervals. It's very important to kind of understand how each interval sounds, because that's the building blocks of further things like chords and scales and things like that. So as part of your musicianship and ear training, you are expected to be able to identify intervals upon listening to each of these different intervals. Let's go into the next topic, which is the major scale. Now, a major scale is nothing but a group of notes which are separated by certain intervals in between them. And there are different types of scales, the major scales, minor scales, and various other scales. The major and minor, the two most commonly used scales. So that's what we'll be learning in this video. And we'll be starting with the major scale. And a major scale works in a simple formula. And we'll first learn what that formula is. So once you learn this formula, you'll be able to make up any major scale by just applying the same formula. So the formula is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. We'll just break that up. So the first part of the formula is tone, tone, and semitone. So I've written it here. The first part of the formula is tone, tone, semitone. Now you just need to remember this, right? Tone, tone, semitone. Now just copy paste the same thing over here. Tone, tone, semitone. And I insert a tone in between, in the middle. And then I join it together. You get tone, tone, semitone, tone, and then tone, tone, semitone. So that's the formula for a major scale. So now what does this mean? Let's say I want to make a scale starting from the note C, the C major scale. So first, obviously I write the letter C because that's the starting point. And then I apply this formula starting from the note C. So let's try and construct the C major scale. So you have C, and then what is a tone from C? Tone is nothing but two semitones. So you go to this black key and then this white key. So the next note is a D. So I'm going to apply this formula here. So a tone from C gives you D. A tone from D gives you E. And a semitone from E gives you F. So now the first half of the formula is completed, which is tone, tone, semitones. I get C, D, E, and F. Now we insert the middle tone. So from F, if you put a tone, you get a G. So now the midpoint is also complete. Now we go to the last part of the formula, which is tone from G gives you A. A tone from A gives you B, and a semitone from B gives you C. So now you got your C major scale. This is how it sounds. So that's your C major scale. Now you can take this formula and apply it to any scale, and you will get the same, exact intervals that are required to fulfill the major scale. Let's take D, for example. Let's try and construct the D major scale. Now we're going to apply the same formula. So you have D, a tone from D gives you E. A tone from E gives you what? This is E. A tone from E doesn't give you F. A a tone is 2 semitones, so you go to F and then the black key, which is an F sharp. So you get F sharp. And now a semitone from F sharp gives you G. So the first part of the formula is completed. Now the middle part, which is the tone from G, you get A. And now the last part of the formula. So a tone from A gives you B. A tone from B gives you C sharp. Not C, it's a C sharp. And lastly, a semitone from C sharp gives you D. So this is your D major scale. Now if you notice, both the scales, the C major and the D major, sound similar. I'll play the C major once more. The D major. Now both sound similar, but they start from a different note, right? And they sound similar because the distance between one note and the other note of the scale is exactly the same. It is just that the starting point is different. So all major scales will sound similar. It's just the starting note that would be changing. We'll do one last example. We'll try and construct the scale of D flat major, right, from the black key. This is your D flat. Now let's apply the same formula. So a tone from D flat gives you E flat. A tone from E flat gives you F. And a semitone from F gives you G flat. First part of the formula is complete. Now insert a tone in between. A tone from G flat would be A flat. A tone from A flat would be B flat. And lastly, a semitone from B flat would give you, sorry, not a semitone, it'll be a tone here, since this is the midpoint, so B flat. And now a tone from B flat would give you C, and a semitone from C would give you D flat. So let's try and play that. So that's your D flat major scale. So that's how you construct major scales. So since there are 12 notes in music, you can construct 12 different major scales from all these different notes. You just need to remember the formula and apply it. Let's get into the next topic, which is chord types. Chords are nothing but groups of notes that are played together. So let's try and listen to an example of a chord. So that's a chord, right? So 3 notes that are played together. There are different types of chords. For this video, we'll cover the 4 main types of chords that are commonly found in Western music. That is the major, the minor, the augmented, and the diminished. They are all 3-note chords. Towards the end of the video, we'll also explore 2 types of 4-note chords called 7th chords. So let's come back to the 3-note chords. So like I'd mentioned, there are 4 major types: the major, the minor, the augmented, and the diminished. We'll now explore what each of these chords sound like. So I'll just play the chords for you once, all 4 types. So this is an example of a major. I'll be playing the chord and the notes separately. And this is an example of a minor. And this is an example of an augmented. Oops, sorry. And lastly, this is an example of a diminished chord. So now you would have noticed that each chord gives a different type of a mood or an emotion attached to it. So major chords are usually associated with positive or happy moods. The minor is a bit darker and melancholic. The augmented is a little unsettling, and the diminished just sounds plain evil, right? So those are the 4 types. And of course, it also depends on how you use these chords, but usually these are the moods associated with these types of chords. So now let's learn how to make or construct these chords. There are different formulas for each of these chord types. We'll first explore what those formulas are. For the purpose of this video, we'll stick to C. We'll start constructing C major, C minor, C augmented, and C diminished. So let's start with C major. So the formula for C major is 1, 3, and 5. So what do these mean? 1, 3, 5. So if I want to know the notes of the C major chord, I need to go to the C major scale and take the first, third, and the fifth note of that scale. We'll just write down the C major scale here. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So these were the notes of the C major scale. Now, what are the first, third, and fifth notes? It's C, E, and G. So if you play them together, you get the C major chord. It's as simple as that. So you go to any scale. Let's say I want to know the notes of the D major scale. So you go to D major scale and take the first, third, and fifth notes. So we did do the D major here. So what are the first, third, and fifth notes? It's D, F sharp, and A. Let's go to minor. Now the formula for a minor chord is 1, 3 flat, and 5. So what does that mean? So the C major was 1, 3, 5. Now for the minor, I just need to flatten the third, right? What does flatten mean? Reduce its value by 1 semitone. So the E becomes an E flat. E, E flat. So you play them together. That gives you the C minor. So that would be C, E flat, and G. Now if you're looking at this D minor chord, so the D major was D, F sharp, and A. So D minor would be you're flattening the F sharp. So what does flattening mean? Reducing the value by 1 semitone. So the F sharp becomes an F. So you get DFA. Let's go to augmented. The formula for augmented is 1, 3, and 5 sharp. So let's come back to 1, 3, 5. So it's C, E, G. And now the fifth needs to be sharpened or increased by 1 semitone. So you get C, E, G sharp. That's C augmented. And lastly, you have the C diminished. The formula for the diminished is 1, 3 flat, and a 5 flat. So C, E, G is 1, 3, 5. So 3 becomes a flat and 5 also becomes a flat. So we get C, E flat, G flat, and G flat. So now you know the formulas for all the different chord types, which is the major, minor, augmented, and diminished. You can apply this on any scale and you get the respective chords from that specific note. So we'll just quickly do, we already did major and minor for D. We'll do the remaining, the augmented. So for the augmented, D major is D, F sharp, and A. So now the fifth needs to be sharpened, so the A becomes an A sharp. And for the diminished, for the major it was D, F sharp, A. So I flatten the third, so F sharp becomes F, and A becomes an A flat. So play them together, you get the D diminished chord. So it's as simple as that. And let's kind of like look into why each chord sounds the way it is, and that has to do with your intervals. So if you look closely at the C major chord, C to E is a major third, right? The interval between C to E is a major third, and the interval between C to G is a perfect fifth. Now, in case of a minor, what's happening? C to E flat becomes a minor third interval, right? From a major third, it becomes minor third. C to G remains the same. It's a perfect fifth. So it's just one note that is causing the change, or one interval, a reduction of one semitone that is causing the change of mood from C, the major, to a minor. And in case of the other chords, you can see C to G sharp, the perfect fifth changes and it is increased by one semitone. And in case of a diminished, it is a minor third and a G flat, which is a tritone. So those are the ways in which your intervals affect the quality of the chord or how it sounds. The next topic is the chords of the major scale. Now, a few minutes back, we kind of derived the entire major scale for the key C, D, and D flat. We can also derive chords from a major scale, and you can use those chords when you compose a song in the key of C major or whichever key you're in. You can use these chords while playing. We'll learn how to derive chords out of the major scale now. Let's start with the C major scale. I'm going to write down the scale: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and lastly C. Now, how do you derive these chords? So it's very simple. I'll just number the notes: 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay. Now, we can derive chords from every single note of the major scale. So totally you get 7 chords. There are 7 notes in the major scale, so you can derive 7 different unique chords from every scale. Let's start with the first note, which is C. So all you need to do is pick alternate notes. So you go C, E, and G, right? So what is a chord? You get C, E, G. That is one chord. Now you can do the same thing starting from the next note, which is D, F, A. Remember, alternate notes. You don't pick E, you go to F and then A. So you get D, F, A. In a similar way, we can do it for E. So you get E, G, B. For F, you get F, A, C. For G, what happens? It's G, B, and there's nothing after C. But there is, the scale continues. So assume the scale continues. So you get C, D, E, and so on, right? So you get G, B, D. Here you get A, C, E, and here you get B, D, F, and lastly you come back to C, E, and G. So you get 7 unique chords from every major scale. Let's try and play these chords just to listen to how it sounds, and then we'll get into the naming. They're not simply called C, E, G, D, F, A. They've got specific names. We'll kind of learn what those names are. So firstly, the first one, C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, and lastly back to C, E, G. Let's get into the names. C, E, G is called C major. We already saw that sometime before. D, F, A is called D minor. E, G, B is called E minor. F, A, C is called F major. G, B, D is called G major. A, C is called A minor. B, D, F is called B diminished. And C, E, G is back to C major. Now, how do you know these names? Whether it's C major, D minor, E minor, F major. Again, it depends on the quality of the intervals between these notes. So remember, in the previous slide, we had derived the chord formulas for each of these chord types. So C, E, G, you know, is C major. The distance between C and E is a major third. Now D, F, A, what is the distance between D and F? It's a minor third. It's not a major third, it's a minor third, the distance between D to F. Remember, D to F sharp was a major third, so F is a minor third, so that's why it's called a D minor. So you can do the same thing for all the chords, and these are the different qualities that you get. So you've already learned the 4 types, and these 4 types are present in the major scale as well. Augmented is not there, we'll come to that later in the minor scales, but in a major scale, any major scale, you need to know that the first, fourth, and the fifth the chords from the first, fourth, and fifth notes will always give you a major chord. The second and the third and the sixth would give you a minor chord, and the last note, which is the seventh note, would give you a diminished chord. Regardless of which major scale you make, the same thing applies. Now, the first, fourth, and fifth chords are also called primary chords, because usually when there is a song written in the key of C in a specific scale, these 3 chords tend to be used a lot, right? So that's why they're called primary chords. Now, let's take another scale and try to do the same exercise. Let's try and do it for the scale of D major. So we get B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. Now you can do the same exercise. So you get D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C sharp, G, B, D, A, C sharp, E, B, D, F sharp, C sharp, E, G, and D, F sharp, A. So again, the same thing applies. So the first, the third, the fourth, and the fifth notes are major chords. The second, third, and sixth are minor chords, and the seventh is a diminished chord. Right, so that's the chords of the major scale. Let's move into the next topic, which is the minor scale. Now, a minor scale is another scale, just like major scale, and it is derived from a major scale, right? So you use the major scale as a base, and then a minor scale is derived from the major scale. So let's do that exercise now. So we will take the C major scale as an example. So I'm going to write that down: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's your C major scale. Now, to get a minor scale out of the major scale, you need to go to the 6th note of the major scale. So this is 1, 3, 5, 7. So the 6th is A. Now you take the 6th note and write the scale as it is starting from that note. So if I do that, I get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now this is called the A minor scale. So this is how it sounds. And this is how C major sounded. Now when you change the order of the notes, the intervals between the notes also changes. So now the formula that you use for major scale, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, that does not apply now here, because now we have changed the order. So it's become something else. So let's learn the 3 types of minor scales. There are 3 types. So whatever we heard now and derived is called the natural minor, because it is just derived out of the major scale and we are not making any changes as it is. The next variant of the minor scale is called the harmonic minor. So this is called the natural. The next one is called the harmonic. Now in a harmonic minor, what happens is you play the scale pretty much as it is, but on the 7th note, you increase its value by a semitone, or you sharpen the 7th note. So you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, and A. That gives a slightly different feel. that's your A harmonic minor scale. There's one more variant called the melodic minor. Here you sharpen the 6th and 7th note, okay, of the natural minor. So you get A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. Now there's a tricky part to this. This is applicable only when you play ascending or when you go up. While you play descending, you play the natural minor as it is, right? So this G sharp becomes a G, and this F sharp becomes an F, and the others stay as it is. This is how it sounds when you play a melodic minor. So that's your A natural, A harmonic, and A melodic minor. It is important to know that when you're going down a melodic minor, you play the natural minor as it is. If a natural minor has sharps or flats, you do retain those when you go down. You don't remove them because we are in the key of C major, which doesn't have any sharps or flats. That's why when you play the natural minor down, you play it without any sharps or flats. We'll just do one more example of a minor scale. I will remove this so that we have some space to do the next scale. Let's do it for the key of D major, E, and D. So these are the notes of the D major scale. So now what would be the minor of this? How would you derive a minor? Take the 6th note, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So this is the 6th note, which is a B. So what you get is a B minor scale. So B natural minor would be the same scale as it is starting from B. So you get B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. That's your B natural minor. Now, how would you make this harmonic? Remember, you need to take the 7th note and sharpen it. So what is the 7th note in the B natural minor? 1, 3, 5, 7. So the A becomes a sharp. Sorry? Right, I'll play that again. So that's your D harmonic minor. Now how do you make this melodic? The 6th and the 7th. G sharp, A sharp. Rest of the notes remain as it is. So you get and while coming down, you play the natural minor as it is. So you get A, G, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, and B. Right. While coming down, these become natural. And of course, you play the F sharp and the C sharp because they are part of the scale, the natural minor scale. So that's the natural minor, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor. So these are the different minor scales that you'll be encountering. Now there's something called relative minor. Relative minor just means that the minor that is derived from the major scale. So if somebody asks you what is the relative minor of C major, then you need to think which is a minor scale that I can derive from C major. So that is A minor. The 6th note of C major gives you A minor. So A minor is called the relative minor of C major. Similarly, now if you take this as an example, D major, what is the relative minor of D major, so that is B minor. So those are relative minors. Next, the chords of the minor scale. So just like we could derive chords from a major scale, now we can do the same exercise for the minor scale as well. And we get different varieties of chords because we're going to use the harmonic minor for this exercise. So remember, there were three variants: the natural, harmonic, melodic. We're going to use the harmonic minor for the exercise of deriving chords. So let's go back and take the example of A harmonic minor. So we'll write down the notes of A harmonic minor. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, and A. And just like you did for your major scales, we're going to take alternate notes and build those chords. So from A, you get A, C, E. From B, you get B, D, F. From C, you get C, E, G sharp, since there's a G sharp due to the harmonic minor. From D, you get D, F, A. E, G sharp, B. Get F, A, C from F, and lastly from G sharp you get G sharp, B, and D. Now these chords also have names, so we'll first write down the names and then play them. So AC is nothing but A minor, BDF is B diminished, we saw these two already in C major. C, E, G sharp is a C augmented chord. DFA is D minor, EGB is E major, FAC is F major, G sharp BD is a G sharp diminished. So now these are your chords of the minor scale, and as you saw for the major scale, you take any harmonic minor scale, these are the different chords that you will get. I mean the chord qualities that you will get from the 1st to 7th notes. Let's play them one by one and hear them. This is your A minor, B diminished, C augmented, D minor, E major, F major, G sharp diminished, and then back to A minor. So these are chords of the minor scale. Right, so apply this to any minor scale that you would like to, and you get the chords of the minor scale. The last topic is 7th chords. Now, remember all the chords that we discussed till now were 3-note chords. C, E, G, D, F, A, all those were 3-note chords. Now, 7th chords are the spicy variety of chords which have 4 notes in them. So let's try and see how they work out. I'm going to write down the C major scale again. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. 1, 3, 5, 7. Now for your regular chords, you took the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note. Now any guesses for the 7th chord? You take the 7th as well. So if you take the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th notes, you get a 7th chord. Now there are different types of 7th chords, just like we saw major, minor, augmented, diminished in the regular chords. 7th chords also have various different types. We'll not get into all those types right now. For the purpose of this video, I'll be just covering 2 types, which is the dominant 7th and the diminished 7th chords. So the first one is the dominant 7th, and the other one is a diminished 7th. These 2 7th chords are the most common type of 7th chords that you'll be encountering. So we'll just cover these 2 for now. These 2 chords also have chord formulas. Let's try and figure out what the formulas are. For the dominant 7th, it is 1, 3, 5, and 7 flat. Okay. So let's try and figure out the notes of the C dominant 7th chord. So for the C dominant 7th, you get C, E, G as it is, 1, 3, 5. And for the 7 flat, you take the B and apply a flat. So you get a C, E, G, and B flat. That's your dominant 7th chord. And next, for the diminished seventh, the formula is 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, 7 double flat. And what is a double flat? Double flat is nothing but you apply 2 semitones down, right? You reduce the note's value by 2 semitones. We'll get into why these exist later on in another video. For now, you just need to know that this is the formula. So now if you apply this on C, you get C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat. So what is that? So C, E flat, G flat, and B is over here. This is B flat, the black key, and then B double flat is this. Now B double flat is nothing but A, right? But we don't call it A in this context, we call it a B double flat. So this is how it sounds. Now, so that's your C diminished seventh. Now you need to understand that the dominant seventh and the diminished seventh, both these chords are hidden in your scales, right? So in a major scale, the fifth note of the major scale gives you a dominant seventh chord. So let's take the C major scale, for example. The fifth note is G. Now if you make a seventh chord starting from G, you get G, B, D, and F. So that sounds like a seventh chord, dominant seventh. Right? And in case of a minor scale, the seventh note of the minor scale, a harmonic minor scale, would give you a diminished seventh. So if you take A minor, you get G sharp, B, D, and F. So that's your diminished seventh. So always remember, in a harmonic minor scale, the seventh note of the harmonic minor would give you a seventh chord, diminished seventh chord that is hidden inside the harmonic minor scale. And in a major scale, the fifth note of the major scale would give you a dominant seventh chord, which is inherently hidden in that major scale. So those are the two main types of seventh chords that we'll be covering for this video. Music theory isn't just about theory, it is the foundation behind every note and chord that you play and hear. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to our channel so that we can bring out more such videos for you. If you'd like for us to cover any specific topic in detail in another video, leave them in the comment section below and we'll have a look at that. If at all you're looking for formal one-on-one piano sessions, head over to oncopianoacademy.com and sign up there so that we can get in touch with you for that. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.